Yeah. Can you reel that back for us when he finishes up? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting of the Higher Ed Committee to order this evening. And let me note, given the hour, we are going to postpone action on House Bill 88 and House Bill 541 and go straight to the first hearings on HR 450 and HB 686. Given that these, one is a constitutional amendment and one is enabling legislation, we'll hear them together. They'll be voted on separately at the appropriate time, but we'll hear them together. And as that, again, I'll call this the meeting to order, and we'll move straight into that agenda. And I'll ask Chairman Wiedauer if you'll tell us about your two measures.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just start out quick remarks. Obviously, this is a measure that we've been debating for a couple years. These two pieces of legislation have been in front of this committee previously over the last 2 years. House Resolution 450 is exactly what came out of the Senate last year. So you guys will be seeing that again. Not to call out a single member, but I believe Representative Gamble might be the only new member to the committee. So I know that we've visited on this subject as we've gotten closer to this hearing. But I will just jump into it real quickly. This House Resolution 450 would be introducing a constitutional amendment that simply would put a question on the ballot in 2026 asking Georgians whether or not they want to legalize online sports betting only. Not bricks and mortar, not kiosks, not horses, not casinos. Simply shall be amended so as to authorize sports betting in the state to provide additional funding for pre-K and HOPE scholarships. The funds go directly to the lottery. You'll see throughout the fairly short bill, but obviously the funds go into that. They would go into the Georgia Sports Betting Proceeds Trust Fund, which would be held within the lottery. The reason it's going into the trust fund is we are splitting that for two reasons. One, the bulk of it, 85%, going to directly to Hope and Pre-K, setting aside 15% of the first $150 million for responsible gaming measures. So, Nickel G's an organization that monitors this kind of the wagering across the country, has a list of things that if you check every box, essentially you're doing this in the most professional way to ensure safe regulations and guardrails for something that's happening across this country. I've said this to you before. I know the people that are opposed to this and are well-intentioned. I've had open dialogue with them as well as all members of our body. This measure, as I see it, is to rein in or to put guardrails on something that is happening right now. Each one of us can pick up our phone, place bets with zero to no to regulations whatsoever. This is, as I'll get into the enabling, which we've seen, I've added two measures in the enabling, which I'll go over in a second, to further safeguard this. I've always said that this is do not want this to be a promotion of it, but a regulation of it. Capture the tax dollars that are leaving the state and putting them in a place that we can all agree upon, which is trying to continue to funnel money to pre-K. That's the crux of the HR 450. The questions on the ballot, it splits it in those two ways. On HB 686, I'll try to go through it as briefly as possible. Again, we've all heard this. Nothing has changed with two exceptions. I added two-factor authentication for all accounts so that it is more secure and people aren't passing accounts from theirs to someone else that should not be utilizing it. The second one is banning all promotions. I mean it when I say that I do not want this to be promotionary. So there's no allowance for, hey, I'll give you $1 if you give me $1. Those are the two things that were added, but real quickly, it's the Georgia Sports Betting Act, obviously on line between 56 and 75. Definitions, the adjusted gross income, again, a little bit duplicative here because we're not letting them take promotional credits, but we're also banning them. So we're kind of doubling up on them there from their taxable income. Master sports betting license would be given to the Georgia Lottery, as you should recall. Sporting events, definition captures all the promotional events that we can be wagered on. Then we get into the types of betting, type 1 eligibility, the different licensees. Type 1 eligibility entity, this is where we define some of our sports teams. Again, they would be able to obtain a license under the type 1 license. Again, 16 licenses as we had previously, the sports wagers. Obviously, Tier 1 is your typical over-under. Tier 2 is prop bets. We are not allowing for prop bets in collegiate sports. Going to really jump ahead through to Part 2. Part 2 really goes through, which is pages 15 through 18, lines 357 through 450. This is going to get into the requirements and everything that someone would have to do to ensure they're a reputable company that's going to be operating under a sports betting license. That includes the application fee of $100,000, the annual license fee of $1 million. You have service providers. They're underneath that application fee of $10,000, license fee of $100,000. Those are licensees that, for instance, I'll utilize the Braves. The Braves may partner with a company that operates a sports book. That would be the official sports book of the Braves. So that would be the service provider. Moving forward to, again, just to the lines, pages 19 through 20, lines 451 through 493 just goes through the process of renewal for licensees. Pages 20 through 22, lines 494 through 529. These are entities that are not eligible to apply for a license, such as employees of the lottery, employees of professional sports teams, coaches of collegiate, professional, other teams, employees of sports league. It really defines that so that we don't have people betting on this that have anything to do with these organizations. Pages 22 through 23, lines 530 through 576. This is the ability for a Type 1 entity to designate online sports betting services provider. So again, that goes back to the pairing up of a team and the official sports book, if you will. This is where it defines there's no more than 16 licenses. The license for eligible entities, 5 licenses for the professional sports team, 3 for the other sports of the Masters, PGA, NASCAR, Atlanta Motor Speedway. The 1 license being for the Georgia Lottery Corporation as the master license. 7 will be awarded through a public procurement process, essentially at large licensees. Moving forward, let's jump to pages 24, lines 577 through 595. This is just saying that a service provider can only partner with or contract with 1 Type 1 sports betting license. So 1 entity can't be the official sports book of 3 teams. That's ensuring that those opportunities get spread across the teams. Page 24, line 597 is where we are prohibiting the prop bets on collegiate sporting events. Moving to Part 3, is where we define the tax rate at 20%. This is a number that we've discussed at length. When these bets get placed, what we're trying to encourage is to end the illegal market, get people onto the legal market. We need to find the sweet spot between trying to generate income but really getting people off of the illegal market. A tax rate that's too high, the odds will change to make it harder for somebody to win money because they're going to be paying more. The companies are going to pay more taxes. So the higher you go, the harder it is to get somebody off the illegal market. But you want it to be enough where it matters. So that's where we're at 20%. Just striking that balance. Page 26 through 27, lines 635 through 667. This is just ensuring separate accounting for application, annual license and fees, fines, penalties, etc. Part 4, pages 27 through 28, lines 669 and through 685. This is a list of restrictions on licensees. This is where we get into kind of locking these things down, not allowing a minor to place a bet. This is where we eliminate cannot extend a promotional credit, cannot offer, accept, or extend credit. That's one of the biggest things for me. The folks that get on these illegal sites that are running up credit cards, in no way, shape, or form do I want to do that. This is where you direct them. They cannot target minors in advertising or promotions. You cannot offer or accept a wager on any event, outcome, or occurrence other than a sporting event. This is where we strike any high school events. This will not be allowed for any high school events wagering. And cannot accept a wager from an individual who's been prohibited from placing a wager under Code Section 5027-162, which is another portion of the bill. Page 28, lines 686 through 690 is where we specify that it is 21 and over. Page 28 through 31, lines 691 through 758. This is a list of members that are not eligible to place a wager on a sporting event. Again, this is trying to lock down, making sure you don't have employees of corporations, of a vendor or licensee, individuals' access to material, non-public information, etc. Also, this is where we defined repercussions for an individual that places an illegal wager. First offense being a misdemeanor, and fine between $500 and $1,000. Second offense, third offense up to $7,500. Pages 31 through 32, 759 through 785. This is a prohibition allowing any bets placed on things like injuries or penalties or outcome of player discipline ruling. Trying to not allow for some bets that would encourage poor behavior, we'll say. There's also ability for the league or event operator to submit a request to restrict, limit, or prohibit a certain type of sports bet. Part 5, pages 32 through 34. Line 787 through 855, this details the requirements for an online sports betting provider for players to register and establish an account for sports betting. So this is all the requirements for setting up an account with one of these operators. It goes through the measures required to verify identity for the bettor registrant, forms of payment. This is where we are not allowing credit cards. This is where we've added the dual factor authentication. This is the utilization of geofencing. Geofencing, obviously, we have people right now that are close enough to the Tennessee border, close enough to the North Carolina border, close enough to the Florida border, that are able to kind of circumvent the geofencing. This is we're going to be utilizing that here as well. Pages 34 through 35, lines 856, 895. This is trying to give measures where somebody can kind of tame themselves, allowing bettors to place limits on the amount they deposit, wager, the amount of time they spend wagering. Again, not to belabor some of the conversations that we've had, but the legal market is very sophisticated, It will alert people if they're doing something that's abnormal to their normal behavior. These are the types of things that I believe that we can curb some by regulating this industry. Let's move to part 6. This is where we get into the data. Part of this is you want to make sure that the data security is essential to make sure that you're not allowed to. It puts guardrails on being able to. We'll say jump the line in a bet. Betting window closes before somebody can yell in a backswing. Technology such as that, we'll say. Part 7, page 40, lines 977 through 983, consumer protection language, which gives the corporation the ability to enter in premises to inspect books. So this is allowing the lottery to be able to come in and make sure an operator is doing what they need to be doing, should that arise. Pages 40 through 42. This is just cooperation between the corporation, sports leagues, operators, and law enforcement agencies around abnormal betting activities. So if something occurs, this just defines how those organizations are to engage with each other to ensure that we bring that to light. Page 42, 1030 through 1035. This is the ability for the corporation to assist in investigations by law enforcement, specifically for any underage wagers or someone running an illegal sports book. This is where we get some teeth into being able to go after the illegal market. Pages 42 through 43, lines 1036 through 1063. This further power the corporation to investigate and conduct a hearing with respect to a licensee upon belief of a violation. Fines for a license for violating any provision of this article. So this could include suspension, revoking, or refusing to renew the license, imposing an administrative fine not to exceed $25,000 per violation. This is where we're trying to, again, put some teeth into anybody that's a bad actor. Ability for the corporation to promulgate rules for schedule administrative fines for violating these into occurrences, allowing minors to place a bet. Someone running a legal sports book, again, just reiterated there. Page 43, lines 1064 through 1072. This is civil penalties for the same transaction of not more than $5,000 per violation, not to exceed $50,000. Again, this is just that whole section. This is where we're just giving teeth for the lottery corporation to go after these folks and defining what all the penalties would be. Part 3, this would just true up Title 16 Criminal Code with the inclusion of online sports betting as a legal lottery game. Ensures payment to be made to a person in regard to sports betting is not illegal under our criminal code. Section 3-2, which is page 45, lines 1116, 1132, ensures advertisements for solicitation for lottery game of online sports betting are not illegal. This is just codifying that we would be legalizing this. Again, this is if House Resolution 450 were to pass on the ballot in 2026, this enabling would go into effect. Section 4 ensures that wages aren't assessed as sales tax. This is the tax that's going to be generated is the money that's being made by the provider or the operator. And section Part 5, page 47, line 1154 through 1160 is giving an effective date of January 1, 2027, which again would be after the 2026 election. Honestly, probably a little bit more in depth than I was planning to, but since it's been a year, I want to dust it off for everybody. But I will stand for any questions. Again, I think that for members of the committee, I don't know if you like your home, but I do. So we will have another chance to discuss. I know Whit Park and I have been in discussions about this. I know he has some commentary. But I would welcome testimony from anybody, would encourage that to be on both measures so we can speed this up and get out of here.
Other questions? Gentleman has asked, will stand for questions. Are there questions? Whip Park, do you have stuff?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Weedar, first, just wanted to say, thank you for your hard work and continuing to perfect this bill. My hope is that we can continue to keep open the lines of communication to ensure that this has the requisite support to pass the House, certainly as a constitutional amendment. And seeing, some of the polling recently in which nearly 80% of voters are likely to support legalization if revenues are dedicated to education, which is exactly what this constitutional amendment would do. Again, in particular, I have an amendment here, which, I'll give you a copy of to share. I think, the position of the minority is just that we want to ensure that we are as inclusive as possible to ensure that we are providing for as much tax revenue for early childhood education, which I think is a shared objective. So is it not true that, you'd be open to continuing those conversations to ensure bipartisan support for this measure?
Certainly, and Whip Park, and I appreciate the commentary. Look, we've all put a lot of thought and effort into this, and I appreciate the efforts, and I will continue to do that. I've been an open book, open door policy through this entire process, and certainly stand here to be that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you turning that into a question, Whip Park. Are there more questions? And remember, as I said earlier, we have some other bills. We'll get an opportunity to debate this, but if there are specific questions related to lines of the bill, we'll take those down and we'll go that. Vice Chairman of the committee, Carter Barrett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your great work and your obvious commitment to education in the state of Georgia and thorough bill. Obviously, legislative approval, voter referendum, and then the implementation law. While we're hearing these together, is it inconceivable that are the two necessarily something that we hear together, or is it conceivable that you would go to the voters with a referendum? So the real question is, should we authorize sports betting, and then if so, how to do it? A sort of a two-part issue.
So I would certainly will be leaving that to the pleasure of the committee on what to do as far as action goes, and to each and every member and how they were to decide on these two measures. What I would contend is that for many people, if you don't know the framework in which something is going to be implemented, there would be uncertainty in how that would be done. So for the benefit of satisfying that, obviously the enabling language is introduced with that full intent of this being married to the resolution. However, procedurally, you're correct. Procedurally, yes, we could pass H.R. 450. It could go to the floor and we'd get a vote and pass. It would go on the ballot in 2026. It would go in effect. It would allow for it as of January 1, 2027. If the body did not take action on enabling language, you would have to do that at some point prior to actually being able to operate. So again, it would be the pleasure of the committee of how to move this forward. I would just contend that I think that there's probably some comfort in making sure we at least have a conversation about how the enabling language would look should it move forward.
Yeah, and Chairman Weeder, I think he did a great job with that. The reason I chose to hear them together is just because they around the same thing. Certainly when if and when the committee wants to take action, they will be taken up separately. Mm-hmm. And correct me if I'm wrong, it's not true, Chairman Weeder. The way the House bill, the enabling legislation is drafted today, contemplates a constitutional amendment, and in fact could not go as a matter of law. It could not take effect and be operational without the constitutional amendment. Is that correct?
That's correct.
As is written today.
That's correct. At one point in this whole last couple of years, there was obviously conversations about could this be done with just enabling language. I think ultimately, again, having conversations across the entire body, the comfort is much more, let the voters decide. If I'm wrong, if anybody that supports this is wrong, let them decide. If they don't want it, they won't want it.
Thank you.
But we'll go from there.
Chairman Dickey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'll keep this short. I appreciate your work on this and the guidelines, guide rails you put with no one under 21, parental control, all of those type things. But I can't get my hands around what's going on now. Will we end up with two? One system would be legal and regulated. Will this other part that goes on now, that's one of the arguments that goes on now, so will that continue? Is anybody policing the illegal part now, and will those under 21 just stay and shift to the unregulated?
I'm going to try to answer that, just to keep us on thing, because I'm going to be quick.
Yeah.
We got 6 people. Chairman Wiedauer or I or anybody else is not in a position to tell you that it would stop. I think the idea is to provide a regulated thing that when one wagers, one knows they are going to get paid. If you are in a legal situation and you hit the big winner and they don't pay you, what are you going to do? Call the sheriff?
Right.
So I think that the gentleman is trying to offer that, but he could not assure us that the illegal market would go away. Is that?
I would agree with that, but what I would contend, Chairman, is that most people want to be on a legal platform.
Right.
The sophistication of these, I mean, not to demean it, but it's almost like a spouse that might want a Gucci purse, right? Instead of something from TJ Maxx. They like the brand name, right? They're gonna gravitate towards a DraftKings, a FanDuel's. They want to be on a legal platform that offers the bells and whistles, the protections that exist. Will somebody that wants to be on a legal market find a way? I mean, people find a way to do all sorts of things you and I don't like. But this gives us an opportunity to put some teeth into to go after it. And let's be honest, a legal market in Georgia or a legal operators from other states right now that are in 39 other states, they don't necessarily have as much of an interest in helping going after an illegal market if they're illegal here too. We would be fools to think that it becomes legal and they go through this extreme vetting process to get legal and licensed, that they would have any interest in allowing for an illegal market to continue if they could weigh in on that.
I agree with that.
Thank you. I see no further questions, so Chairman Wiedauer,
Sure.
if you want to take a seat back there, and then we'll offer our speakers. I'm hesitant to offer them an opportunity to sit down. They might stay longer. No, I'm just kidding for all our speakers.
Then I'll just
But
stay here and block it.
no, let's not do that. We'll give our speakers the opportunity to come to the table or to the podium, Mike. I have 6 speakers. The hour was late. I would ask if we could each stay under. I hope we can each stay under about 10 minutes, and we'll wind this thing up in an hour. And I just got kicked all the way up and down the committee table here, but we'll try to do that if you can, and we'll start with this, and I'll try to go to a speaker, and then I'll give who's on deck, and then go down the road. So, Mr. Parnell, you're our first speaker. Mr. Griffin, you're on deck. Dr. Kine, you're in the hole, as they were if we were playing at the old ballpark. So, Mr. Parnell.
Good evening. Is this good, Mr. Chairman? Is this the podium's fine? Okay. Thank you so much, Mac Parnell. Thank you so much, Mac Parnell with the Georgia Faith and Freedom Coalition. It's an honor to be with y'all this evening. Thank you so much, Chairman Wiedauer, for your hard work on this. I know you've put a lot of thought. I have a lot of friends that have been working on this legislation, but we view this as very problematic for Georgia families, especially young people. The Georgia Faith and Freedom Coalition is opposed to the expansion of gambling in our state, including sports betting. Study after study show the numerous problematic outcomes of this: reduced on-the-job productivity, bankruptcy, divorce, suicide attempts. You know the list, and in fact, in the legislation, there's mitigation efforts, which leads me to wonder if they're in the legislation that you're legalizing something. If you have to have mitigation efforts, why would you be endorsing that? And so we're not in favor of increased state-sponsored gambling. And the argument that this is already something happening in the state, so we need to regulate it and tax it, that argument can be made about any number of problematic illegal activities. We do not think this is good for Georgia families. We're already the #1 state in which to do business. We're proud of that. This is not something we need. This is not something that that would help Georgia families. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman.
Mike Griffin, Mr. Parnell has set the bar. Now, Mr. Griffin, you take as long as you need.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Been there, done that, got a T-shirt from it 3 or 4 times here. But no, thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee, and appreciate the opportunity to share and speak on behalf of Georgia Baptist. Representative Wiedauer, we're friends. I tell you, I respect him. We differ on this issue, but I believe his intention as well. But we're concerned about this issue. We've been opposing this type of legislation by way of expansion of gambling for probably about 15 years, 12 for me since I've been down here. And Georgia Baptist represent up to 1.4 million Georgians and approximately 3,500 churches. In 2022, we passed a resolution opposing sports betting by our convention. And, we're just very concerned. I've given you some information there called Let the People Decide is not a justification for more gambling in Georgia. You've got that information there from an article that I wrote in the Christian Index. And my point with this is simply this. We're talking about the Republican questionnaire that was out there, and we've talked about what the University of Georgia did in the survey that they did. And I mean, really, when you think about it, they never used the word gambling. They never used the word betting. They talked about not wanting the politicians in Atlanta to make the decisions for the people. And, we are in a representative republic, constitutional republic, and you are supposed to make decisions on behalf of the people as their responsibility to do that. And then the other one, said, well, it was about 800 people that were, and they said, well, about 80% or whatever of those, 60 to 80, depends on exactly what the survey question was, were for it too. And my point is, really, if you walk out here on the street, I just really don't think you're going to ask somebody and they're going to say back to you, what are the top 3 things you think is most important in the legislature? I don't think anybody's going to say that expanding gambling is something that they want. Now, if you ask them on the street, do I want to vote? Yeah, they probably will say that. But again, you and I have a responsibility, or you have a responsibility as legislators, to not use something that would appear to be an excuse to let the, quote, people decide, because when you put something on a ballot, it's more than likely going to pass. Because I believe the perception of the people is simply this: you wouldn't put that on the ballot if you didn't think it was something good for the people in the state of Georgia. And in 2022, in a Senate hearing dealing with recreational marijuana that never got a vote, one of the senators said, we can't take a chance of putting that on the ballot. That might get passed. And the point is, you say, but still the people want to decide. No, the people have decided for you to decide to make the things available to them that you think are profitable and well for them. And the bottom line is, when you put that out there, we've already seen the data to show that those of us that oppose expanding gambling, we're going to be outspent 250 to 1. And I don't know if any of you have ever run for House or Senate. and had your opponent outspend you 250 to 1, you probably would not be sitting here. I'm just saying they're going to make it look like all that glitters is gold. And our people are going to be manipulated into believing that this is something good. And it's not, because the data's here. Professor Kent will tell you that. He and Professor Grinnells testified at least 2 or 3 times before Congress under oath, and they shared that gambling revenue that comes in will cost the government and the taxpayer and socioeconomic expenses for every dollar. It's going to cost $3 to $5. So when we talk about these regulation issues, taxation issues, and the mental health and addiction issues that are out there with this, well, we're going to regulate it so we can better control it. That's a placebo. It's just simply not going to happen. It actually, what you're going to do if this gets legalized, you're going to be putting gasoline on a dumpster fire. That is already happening in our state. I know it. Fentanyl is already happening in this state. Marijuana is already happening in this state. Prostitution is already happening in this state. Do we want to legalize it so we can sanctify it? Y'all going to go back to my TV interview. We talked about the moral manure of gambling, because gambling is what it is. It's gambling. Les Burnell says it is, it's legalized fraud, meaning the house has got to win, and it's going to manipulate people, and it's basically state-sponsored predatory gambling. And again, you're going to hear the data, and you've seen the data hopefully already out there, that young adult men and even children are being caught up into this, and that these things of trying to regulate it is actually a placebo. I saw some data that actually came from a Democrat in the House, I won't call his name, from the UK, that's basically showing that it doesn't work. Because why? 5 to 20%, however you want to look at it, you can see different data on this, comes from the problem addicted gamblers, meaning they don't make money from responsible gamblers. It's the addicted that do. And again, we talk about the mental health issues. Well, up to 1/3 of those who are addicted to gambling are going to attempt suicide. And I've seen data showing that 10% are going to be successful. And even Todd Jones, who with the mental health legislation here back, in 22, he said it's basically intellectually dishonest to talk about the benefits of gambling without talking about the detriments. And you know why I believe we've not passed any gambling legislation by way of expansion here in our state? Because I believe that many of you are looking at the facts, and they're putting the benefits and the detriments there, and you're weighing them, and you say, you know what, the detriments way more than the benefits. And so I think that's something that we need to be looking at. Again, these are just some of the issues. I mean, if you go to the American Psychiatric Association, they consider gambling addiction in the same category of heroin, opioids, alcohol, and cocaine. You're just going to make this more accessible. And I literally have the data, and you have it in your files there from Les Burnell, who sent his report to you. And he shows here that in 2022, 52% of the gambling that's going on is illegal gambling. Data just came out from Massachusetts, where they just legalized in the last few years, that in 2022, illegal gambling went up 4%, and in 2023, it went up 18%. So what you're going to do is just people are going to still go to the illegal. And I've already talked with the Attorney General's office. I talked with the Prosecuting Attorney's Council. There is not a clear direction that we have now, even to deal with the illegal gambling that we do have in the state, and now we're going to add this to it. I tell you, I don't think we need to do that, and I think we need to love and care about our people enough that we're not going to take the chance for them to be manipulated by the advertising and things that's going on. I think you need to make that decision because you love God and because you love your neighbor. I think you say, I'm not going to take a chance of putting this out there for them. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We appreciate your opposition, the committee, on both of these pieces of legislation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gregory. Can I ask you one question?
Yes, sir.
You mentioned that data from Massachusetts and the increase. Is that in the sheet you gave us?
It is. It's in your sheet that Les Burnell gave you from Stop Predatory Gambling.
Okay, that's one that we have electronically.
He electronically sent to
Yeah.
y'all.
Yes,
I have
sir.
I have a.
No, that's fine. That I just wanted to say, I didn't see, I
That's
don't
where
have
that
them. We
data
came straight
comes
from the
from.
floor and wasn't able to print it out. I looked at it earlier. I just was trying to remember
Yes.
where I had seen
Some
it.
good
Thank you very
information
much.
there just to look at just the facts.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin.
Thank
Dr. Khan, Chelsea, Thompson will be on deck. Dr. Khan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll sit if I may, since I get tired of hauling around all this research. We doing? Are we okay now? Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the committee. As Mr. Griffin said, my colleagues and I have testified frequently before the U.S. Congress and multiple state legislatures on this very type of legislation. I taught at the University of Illinois for 40 years. I've also taught here in Georgia at colleges. And I'm here as a constituent on behalf of my 13 grandchildren. You know what grandchildren are. They are God's reward for not killing your children. And grandparents and grandchildren get along so well because we have a common enemy.
I'm waiting for this one.
Anyway, okay. You may have a bit of a wait. Anyway, we had a hearing in the U.S. Senate on December 17th before the Senate Judiciary Committee. I have a copy of my prepared statement for that committee. Also, the prepared statement of Jeannie Seaver, who has started Moms Against Gambling and now has a national reputation here in the, she's located here in the state of Georgia. As I said, I've seen this exact not exact, but very close legislation in many other states. And what is their experience? What has happened with them? Well, many of you have seen this before. This is the head of Newsweek. The cover of Newsweek shows that kids are being targeted by the gambling industry. This is their future. And the kids are now showing double the gambling addiction rate of the general population. Again, it's a recognized addiction pursuant to the American Psychiatric Association. It's listed in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. And we tend to say, click your mouse, lose your house. But now, you can just click your phone, lose your home. And for kids, if they're into an addiction type of situation, with drugs, they have to go across the street, but they don't have to do that anymore because it's right here on their cell phones. You're going to lose your tots to online slots. Now, I know that there's good faith effort to try and regulate this, but we had a national congressional commission before whom I and my colleagues testified under oath. And by the way, we don't accept any honorarium or consultant fees. We do this simply as academic exercise. And 99% of academics, credible academics, will agree that this is lose-lose for the state, it's lose-lose for the public. But Newsweek gets it, the national media gets it. What's happened in other states that have enacted this type of legislation? Well, here's the front page of the Chicago Tribune on Super Bowl Sunday. And they legalized this very type of sports gambling. They were the first state to do this modernized sports gambling, June 28, 2019. In 2.5 years, the Illinois Department of Human Services reported 383,000 addicted gamblers, 761,000 problem gamblers, costing the state $5 billion to $13 billion. This is the state of Illinois, the first state to do this, which you're considering doing right now. And the same Super Bowl Sunday, Wall Street Journal saying millions of people are being cheated by the sports books. They think it's legal, and they're using this, but it's what they're doing is they're being cheated, according to the Wall Street Journal. And we have a new report out from the University of San Diego. 700,000 online gambling accounts were analyzed. 700,000 online gambling accounts. 96% had lost their shirts. Only 2,800 had a positive balance in their accounts. This is lose-lose for the state. It's lose-lose for kids. And so what do we have? The state of Vermont has introduced legislation to repeal sports gambling. The state of Maryland is introducing legislation to repeal sports gambling. You've seen some of this before. This is just one of the huge volumes of books. Notice they're in the UGA colors, black and red. One of the books with hundreds of academic government reports, federal reports, state reports that have really gone into this in depth, and it's lose-lose. And as Mr. Griffin said, the costs are $3 to $5 to $12 for every $1 in benefits. Because it makes its money off of turning people into losers. And I would end by saying, you've seen this before, I believe. This is a law review for those of you who are attorneys here. 14 Blue Ribbon academics, the Illinois Law Review, they're all negative on gambling, includes research from Mercer, Emory, Georgia State University, Terry College of Business, UGA, and it's the biggest selling issue in the history of the University of Illinois Law School. I think this is a third printing in red of the same issue. And just recently out of Emory, another big law review article. It says Cornell on it, that's where it was published, but it was done by Professor Matt Lawrence. Excellent article, reaffirming all of this research. And this is just the tip of the iceberg on this research. So I would encourage you all, I retired here to Georgia to be with our grandchildren. I would hate to see you do to the state of Georgia with the gambling people what has happened to the state of Illinois, which is technically bankrupt. They've got $175 billion in unfunded liabilities. And I served on the education committee there at the University of Illinois for years and years. And we saw money migrate from education funds into the gambling industry, being misdirected. So please don't do to Georgia what has happened in other states which have not listened to the facts and have gone with all that glitters is not gold. This glitter's great. It's not going to work. It's not going to do what you think. And the National Gambling Impact Study Commission, the Congressional Commission, which analyzed this for 5 years, concluded it cannot be regulated. They recommended to keep it criminalized because it could not technologically be regulated. All this geofencing, my expert friends and myself, it doesn't work. So thank you for your kind attention. I appreciate it, Mr. Chairman. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Thank you, Dr. I had a couple of, I was trying to write a couple of notes. And can you tell me what states you said had introduced legislation to repeal? Can you remind me, was it New Jersey?
Vermont and
okay.
Maryland. And Texas is not specifically sports gambling, but my understanding from a conference call I had yesterday and another one this morning, that they're introducing legislation to roll back the gambling in Texas.
Okay, thank you very much. You have no further questions?
Any other questions?
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Ms. Thompson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate your courtesy, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Ms. Thompson, do you wish to stand or sit?
I will stand.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll let him actually clear out if that's okay first.
No, yes, yes, not rushing, just getting you ready.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the committee. So my name is Chelsea Thompson. I'm General Counsel of Frontline. And I want to say thank you again for your time today. And Marcus, I did tell you that I would tell you that I love you, but we are in opposition of the bill. And what's funny is while we are in opposition of HB 686 and HR 450, I actually have a bet going right now that I can give my testimony in less than 3 minutes. So that's running right now, by the way.
You lose if I raise my hand.
So I provided already.
I'll give
so
you 20-second credit for that.
So I provided a handout actually with you guys so I can keep it short. It does have our name on the front of it, so you'll see Frontline. So if you just want to grab that and refer to it, that would be great. As many have mentioned, states have legalized sports betting, and states that have done so, we've seen, as has been mentioned by many that have already testified, increased problem gambling, aggressive industry targeting of vulnerable populations, including minorities especially, and overstated economic benefits that have only come back to show the negative impact on the state in the cost of social services. It's already been said, and we agree, that we don't believe that because something is already happening illegally that we should go and legalize it. You can use this examples across the board, as some have done and said today. This move kind of creates a domino effect, right, of things that can come from legalization, such as advertising, which has already been mentioned and is covered in the bill, and thus more problematic betting. So further, as mentioned already, there is no research that shows that just because we legalize this, that the illegal actions will continue, or it will stop actually, but potentially continue. And that's already been mentioned by a few members on the committee. Sorry, I don't like my phone here. In closing, we just urge you to continue to protect Georgia and leave things the way that they are with, the stance that we have right now on betting. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And for the record, the lady wins. Are there any questions? Yes, sir. You remembered who you signed in. Yes, please tell us who you are and who you represent.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I know it's late, so I'll be quick, much less shorter than 3 minutes for sure. Cash Ready again with Capital City Public Affairs, and we represent the Sports Betting Alliance, which FanDuel and DraftKings, BetMGM, and Fanatics are members of. We are very much in support of this legislation brought to you by Chairman Wiedauer. I want to thank him for working with us, the operators, the teams, local teams, and the leagues to craft this. I know we've worked on it for multiple years now. I think we got it almost perfect this time. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll stand for any questions if there are any.
Gentlemen, have any questions? Any questions? Yes, sir.
Alrighty, Mr.
Tell us who you are and who you represent.
Nick Fernandez with the Metro Atlanta Chamber. Just want to also rise in support of both House Bill 686 and House Resolution 450. As Cash mentioned, just want to thank Chairman Wiedauer for his work working with not only you all, the legislature, and the members of this committee, as well as advocates on both sides of the issue. Just want to thank him for his work and his steadfast approach to this. And we rise in support for two reasons. One, we still believe that the revenue generated from sports betting has generational opportunities when it comes to our pre-K and our higher education opportunities. At the Chamber, we're doubling down on our youngest talent, and there will be some bills this session that I think will make it over to the House here soon for childcare as well as pre-K, and we just think this continues that effort and bodes well for the state. And second, is the approach this legislation takes ensuring a opportunity for both Georgia's sports brands and companies that have had generational investments here in the state, as well as opportunities for open licenses to be procured through the process. So we think that strikes a balance between open licenses and sports companies here, and we just support the legislation before you. So thank you.
Are there any questions for the gentleman? If not, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our testimony. Just to make sure, I'll give a call out in case we missed anybody. It's the hour is late, but anybody that stayed, I don't want you to go home without a opportunity to speak. Who do I have here? Representative Jackson, did you have a question? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I know the hour is late, and I know we are just drained. But I was looking over 450.
Yes, ma'am.
And what is?
Shall I bring Chairman Wiedauer back? Is it the question for him?
He can answer it from right
Okay,
there.
Okay, that's fine. Yes, ma'am. I was just tuning him in for you because the hour's late.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Chairman Wiedauer.
One of the things that I would like for you to consider, as I noticed you were talking about the training of the teachers that will be dealing with pre-K up, and I noticed you were dealing with the technical college system. But we do have within the four-year institution, particularly one that has been known for teacher education in the state of Georgia, that has taught most of the teachers, African American teachers, before the desegregation movement, was Savannah State University. And I recall that the governor has given the program back to Savannah State, but there is very little that can be done with just 3 faculty members. So I was hoping if you would relook at this and try, instead of not taking out technical college, but you would incorporate this 4-year and above institutions as well for the training of teachers for pre-K through 6th grade or whatever level you may have.
I can't find my copy of
Here it is.
450. I think the lady is referring to language. Help me with the lines, Representative
Okay.
Jackson, real quickly.
It's on page 3.
Yes, page 3.
Lines 56.
Right.
I believe 49, 56.
Yeah,
Because it goes to technical colleges.
Right, Chairman Reedower, if you would maybe get with her, that's something that's existed in that portion of the Constitution. Yes, sir.
Representative Jackson, thanks so much. So this is not directing anything from 4 years actually on the next line. All this is while we're bringing this into code, we merely are correcting how the technical college system is referred to now. So it's not actually, we're not directing anything to technical or omitting from a 4-year college. It merely is correcting how we are referring to them. So if you look just on, for instance, on line 56, directly in front of that, it says Department of Technical and Adult Education. That's struck and replaced with Technical College System of Georgia. It is merely a cleanup of how that is referred to. This is not directing or omitting either institution.
Thank you. But I wish it would just be spelled out in here that it's not just technical, because I am in, you know.
Yes, ma'am.
But I would not like to see 4-year institutions left out, of this.
Yes, ma'am, and that, yes, sir, that's on line 57. It's just, yeah, it's, the reason it's not as highlighted is this is personnel for public post-secondary technical institutions under the authority of technical college and for professors and instructors in the university system. It's just a little strange to look at because you see the line through and the new technical college system of Georgia to change the name. So it highlights technical college, but the university system is on equal footing there. I take the lady's comment. Savannah State is trying to wrap back up their teaching program.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Are there any further questions of the gentleman? We will have him back, and that could be as early as 1 p.m. tomorrow. We have a large schedule tomorrow. This was not originally on because we hadn't had the first hearing. It may be added just as I will sound that to the audience. If we cannot get to everything in our time frame tomorrow, we will meet again Thursday early a.m. So just to let everybody know, we have an agenda out set with several items for action tomorrow that we have heard before. This was not part of that agenda because we had not yet heard it the first time, and I wasn't sure we'd be able to hear it tonight when that agenda was set. This may be added to that 1 o'clock agenda. Just I want to sound that for the record. And with that, if there are no further questions, remind the committee we will meet on a committee work day. This is a recess work day for the committees. Need everybody here tomorrow at 1 o'clock. If there are no further action before the committee, we'll stand adjourned without objection. Thank everyone for being here. We are adjourned without objection.